With the long and awaited and most anticipated PXG vs Bayern Munich match in the series finally starting, one of the most debated questions is who will actually score in the match, and that's what I plan on figuring out today. The first thing to mention is who will actually win the match, and the answer is clearly Bayern Munich. I know there will be PXG or Rennes fanboys who are convinced that PXG win, or that Isagi needs to lose just for the sake of losing, but narratively it doesn't make any sense. If you have any actual reason why you believe PXG will win, drop a comment below, but I just don't see all this build up for Bayern Munich to lose the final and most important game before the U20 World Cup starts. This is the match that Isagi will finally overtake Rennes as rank 1. It will be the one where Kunigami finally gets revenge against Shido. It will have Hiro and Karasu interacting, both Ness and Kaiser development, Kyoto showing something. Bayern Munich are the protagonists and the whole match points to them winning. PXG will definitely push and compete with Bayern Munich and the result will be extremely close. You have the previous top 3 and the characters from the first, second and third selection who never got their moment in the U20 match. So ultimately I expect a 3-2 win for Bayern Munich, just like the other 3 games. So if Bayern Munich win, that means they will score the 5th and final goal. So why is this important? Well, I think it's important in identifying the order who scores. In the previous Bayern Munich games, we have had unique orders such as Barca scoring first with Bartra's goal, then Kaiser, Lavino, Noah and finally Kunigami. The Manshine match had Chigiri score, then Kaiser, then Kunigami, Nagi and finally Yukamiya. Then we have from Ubers go from Isagi, Baro, Kaiser, Baro and Isagi once again. We have had 3 unique orders so far. So how many unique options are there in total if Bayern Munich score the 5th goal? Well, there are 6 potential options and we've already seen 3. And so assuming it will be another unique order, that leaves us with 3 different combinations. The first being Bayern Munich scoring, then PXG 2, with Bayern Munich scoring the next 2. Or potentially one team scores 2 in a row, then the other 2 in a row, with the final goal being from Bayern Munich. If the Egoist 4 theory, where all the members score the first goal in the Bayern Munich games becomes true, and therefore Kunigami may score the first goal. If you also look at the order and who scored previously, we see that Kunigami never scored the first goal, Isagi never scored the second, and Kaiser the third, which could be the final order, but I'll talk about that later. Why this order also may happen is because if Kunigami and Isagi score the first 2 goals, they both will have scored 3 goals total, the same as Kaiser, which is exciting because it means whoever scores the final goal will be the top goal scorer for Bayern Munich. Alternatively, it could have Kaiser scoring 1 and Isagi 2, that way they're seen as equals coming into the U20 World Cup. I also want to say that I expect all 5 goals to be extremely hype or super goals, and so let's talk about each character and who will actually score. Starting with PXG, as their team is a lot more predictable in who scores. Well, the most obvious person to score is Satoshi Rin. He's currently rank 1 in the current obstacle that Isagi is trying to overcome, while trying to crush Isagi himself. We also know that Loki wants him to shoot more, which means he'll likely get stopped more than once by Isagi or other potential defenders in the match. As he develops his destroyer ego towards the end of the U20 game, which Sai recognized in their childhood, and we also see it against Nagi, we will definitely see him score at least 1 goal in this match. Now the other thing I want to mention is I don't expect him to score both goals for PXG. If Isagi's goal is to be rank 1 by the end of the NDL, then he must overcome Rennes' 198 million salary. He is approximately 50 mil above Isagi already, and so Isagi still has a lot of work to overtake Rennes, especially if Rennes scores as well. With approximately a 50 mil advantage, then Isagi would need to score a hat-trick or do something overly insane to warrant a growth that exceeds Rennes' current salary, plus 2 goals worth increase. We know that Rennes' hunger is not to be rank 1, it's just to beat Isagi, and so I'm expecting Isagi to have the top rank by the end of the NEL. I'm still expecting a great performance from Rennes and a remaining top 2, but I do believe he'll only score 1 goal. So who else will score for PXG? Well, to me there's only 2 options, especially since Toki, Nanase and Zantetsu are all playing supporting roles, and Charles being portrayed more as Loki's assistant than a scoring threat. That means the most obvious candidate is Shido. He was seen as rank 2 and close to Rennes' level previously, being a great scoring threat in the 3rd selection, the U20 game and even the NEL. He continues to be one of the best strikers in Blue Lock. Having relationships with Rin, Kunigami, Ikiguri and now even Kaiser, he has been hyped up to do even more, and seeing as Loki split the team into two just for Rin and Shido, makes me believe he will score too. Loki's advice is to increase his accuracy. That's a piece of scoring advice, and to me hints to his super goal being him increasing his range and accuracy. Now the reason I think he has a slim chance not to score is in the odd case that Loki himself scores after subbing in. However, I don't think that's very likely. We know that Loki wants to shape Charles into the best midfielder, so he can become the best in the world, and so perhaps he attempts to score with Charles to show an example. If it indeed goes in this order, then I see that Loki will sub in when PXG has the advantage, and potentially tries to score with Charles' assist to end the game. But I unironically think that Ikaguri will be the one to stop Loki, as I believe that Ikaguri and Noah will both replace Mensa and Birkenstock in this formation. They share some themes and contrasts, such as being one of the best prodigies, while the other being portrayed as trash, while also having the theme of Godspeed against Buddha luck. And swapping him will also give him reason to make the final spot in the U20 roster, potentially overtaking Fukaku. I'm expecting his militia to be used and they hold off against PXG's 3 minutes with the Master Striker subbed in, something they couldn't do when Snuffy was subbed in. With a strict 3 goal limit and PXG likely only getting 2, I'm convinced that Rin scores a guaranteed goal, with Shido having a 95% chance, with a small chance that Loki or someone else scores. Now it's time for the victors of the match, Bastard Munich. This roster is much harder to predict as we see Kunigami, Isagi, Kaiser and potential others all competing to score of the 3 limited goals. The first character I want to talk about is Kunigami. As mentioned before, I think that since Kunigami scored the second and third goal previously, and being a firm believer of the Eagles 4 theory, where each score the first goal, then I believe he'll score the first goal this time. So what do we know about Kunigami? Well, we know he looks depressed and edgy ever since the wildcard, and portrayed as the final dark horse. In his introduction back, we see him declare he will become the best in the world, as we see his physical specs further increase to Noah's level, but his personality and aura are different. We know that the wildcard has been brought up multiple times, which still remains a mystery coming into the match, which will likely get expanded on during the confrontation with Shido later in the match. Originality is a person's own hunger as described by Ego, and we see that his common is to beat that guy, which is most likely referring to Shido. Now the following chapter had Ego one-on-one with Kunigami, and we see Ego ask him to abandon his ego and be used to raise to the level of the other egoists. Ego himself has given up on Kunigami already, and only brought him up to model Noah, the current world's best, in a way that signifies if Blue Lock player can overcome Kunigami, they could beat Noah in the future. But will he abandon his ego? Well, we know he got rid of his hero ego, but I don't see him remaining like he is currently. The OG squad are referred to as the Egoist 4, not the Egoist 3 plus Kunigami. He has the ambitions to be the world's best striker and become a hero even if his ego is currently dormant. We've had moments that show his sincerity in helping his old friends. His old personality isn't completely destroyed yet, and he can still redeem himself. We know that Chigiri asked Kunigami to watch him, and there's no way Kunigami remains his edgelord with all his build up since his return. He will be the hero for Bastard Munich by scoring and showing his true ego. No other way will be satisfying for his character, even assisting Isagi. We've been hinted to he wants to defeat Shido, and as a striker and egoist, the main thing to defeat someone else is by scoring. Once again, I want to emphasize that an assist is not enough for his character. Kunigami is the vessel to become the next Noah physically, although he isn't there yet, but getting close to it. In chapter 167, Isagi and Kunigami team up to destroy Kaiser, with Isagi's assist, but we see the disappointment in Kunigami's eyes as Isagi passed, referring to Isagi as a failed striker. With a lot of focus on Isagi and Kaiser versus Rin and Shido, we know that Kunigami is the dark horse of the match. To me, Kunigami will score, but there is a chance he doesn't. The issue with him scoring is that Bastard Munich are very tight in goals, in the way the story is written. There is a chance that Isagi and Kaiser score the first and second goals, with Isagi scoring the third, meaning that Kunigami doesn't get his goal, but instead does assist Isagi. That being said, I'm expecting a lot from his character in the final match, with all his build up since returning. I know a lot of fans will say it's a waste of character if he doesn't score, and be seen as an unsatisfying conclusion to his character if he doesn't beat Shido now. Personally, defending and assisting is not a way to beat Shido as a striker, and unsatisfying for the reader. He wasn't resurrected from the wildcard just to be thrown away and disregarding his own ego. His role in the match will be more important, and we will see him develop before the U20 World Cup starts, and so I think there's a good chance he scores. Now the next two characters who have a chance to score are the sword duo Kiora and Yukimiya. I know a lot of people aren't hyped for the two, but I wouldn't completely write them off yet, although I don't think their chance is very high. The reason I put them together is because if one does score, I believe they'll work together in a team. For Kiora, he has one game to exceed 28 million to survive, assuming Fukaku is 23rd. That's extremely difficult with one game remaining. We know Corona said goals are worth 30 to 50 million, which was wrong according to the 4th round increases, but it could be more directly referencing this game in particular, where a simple goal is 30 mil and a super goal worth 50. For example, 2 super goals from Izuki will tip him into 250 mil, while Rin with only one could be only to 248. And so if Kiora gets a simple goal that's worth 30 million, he can surpass Fukaku as ranked 23rd and make the final roster. Kiora is a character with merch, extra chapter details like his character profile and stats, and was on a recent color spread. No other character like Igaguri or Nanase, who is also fighting for the final spot, has had this much promotion. We know that he is a top 5 shooting stat, and with his hype in episode Naoki, we will likely see him pop off and increase his hype. If he is actually a top scorer and as good as his hype portrays him to be, then he potentially could score a goal and make the roster. With his character foreshadowing, it would be weird if he didn't have any game breaking moment, and so I'm expecting a goal or assist, which will likely be the latter. As for Yukimiya, he had his whole quarrel with Ego about his future on Ajax, and for them to wait until after the NEL ends to prove his worth. We know he did fairly little in the Ubers game, even though he was the 1v1 Emperor in a game about 1v1s, and he isn't even a starter now. He still hasn't proved his worth in the NEL after the end of the Manshine game, and scoring a second goal could show he still has the ambitions to be the world's best striker and show Ajax he is worth it. Now I don't think either will score, but I will not write them off completely yet. I think they have about a 5 to 10% chance to score, but the only way of them scoring to make sense is if Kunigami scores the first goal, to maintain Kaiser vs Izuki for the final. With the 3 goals being from different blue lockers, it could emphasize that they have overtaken the NEL teams. That being said, I don't think they'll score and most likely assist, but I can see a scenario where they do. Well, now's the interesting part. How many goals will both Izuki and Kaiser get? They are the 2 primary strikers and scoring threats for Barca Munich currently, and there's a lot of foreshadowing for both characters and what will happen with them. But before them, we must talk about the character who makes or breaks this match, Ness. We know Ness is defined as the heart of Barca Munich and Kaiser's shield, and recently we just got Ness's backstory. Before the Manshine match we had Yukimiya's backstory, and he scored the final goal, and in the Ubers game we see Hyo's backstory, with him having the game winning assist. The backstory character has been emphasized with the final goal in the match, and I believe Ness, who just had his backstory, will be similar with him assisting one of Kaiser or Izuki in a spectacular super goal. After every game we see Ness's observation of Izuki. The first match had him complaining, the second has a panel of him looking timid as he observed Izuki and Yukimiya's relationship before breaking out, while the third he witnessed it, Izuki's magic. The same thing Kaiser had that mesmerized him in his backstory. He is slowly warming up to Izuki and seeing his potential. We know that Charles is the heart of PXG and a new prodigy midfielder for Loki. The difference is he has a lot more freedom on how he plays, and he can play and adjust his skill with both Shido and Rin. And so I think that Ness, who is the heart of Barca Munich, and someone whose potential is limited by Kaiser telling him not to think, will break free and awaken to potentially beat Charles, as he finds a way to assist Izuki or Kaiser, similar how Charles can do it for both Rin and Shido. But since Ness's play will likely be the final goal, the question will be if he assists Kaiser or betrays him assisting Izuki. Personally, I'm expecting a betrayal as we see Kaiser turn into the naked emperor, as prophesized. So how many goals will Izuki get? Well, the first thing to discuss is that his ambitions for this match is to become rank 1 and overtake Rin's spot. He is currently worth 150 million while Rin 198. He still has a lot of work to overcome Rin. I've seen some people say Izuki will score a hat-trick, but in my eyes that just doesn't make any sense narratively. The issue will be that he'll hog all the goals for the other characters like Kunigami and Kaiser, and as soon as he scores the second goal, the stakes of the match would look wonky. If Isugi scores the first 2 goals, that means that Kaiser already lost and Rin can't overtake him. The final goal's hype would be ruined. So will he score 1 or 2 goals? In my eyes, it makes more sense for him to score twice in this match. Rin's ambition is to surpass Sai and destroy Isugi. Meanwhile, Kaiser believes he is inferior to Isugi currently and doesn't want to end like this, like last match. Both of them intend to destroy Isugi, meanwhile Isugi's mindset is currently to be the best. We know that this match is his last chance to surpass both Rin and Kaiser before the U20 World Cup, as he says he's done playing second fiddle to you monsters. The other hint to me is in chapter 244, where he says it, if we beat PXG and I outscore Rin, I overtake him in the rankings. To me it indicates that Isugi will score twice and actually do both, defeat Rin and Kaiser, and cement himself as Blue Lock's ace and the best striker. But there is still Kaiser who can score. The biggest theme about Kaiser is his blue rose and the symbolic emphasis in doing the impossible. He is currently the best striker, scoring 3 amazing goals already, and we know that his backstory will be expanded on, especially with Ness as the match continues. Giving up is the worst type of thinking, and we know he used to be a weak-minded person, which is a bit hypocritical of the whole idea of him giving up against Noah and fleeing club, while Isugi is portrayed as someone who can reach that potential and not giving up yet. And even though Kaiser is theorized to have a glass and weak ego, he is still an egoist and someone who also embodies Blue Lock's ideals, and is set on a mission to crush Isugi. Isugi and Kaiser have different mindsets, which is why Isugi will eventually surpass Kaiser, and has the potential to be the best in the world. Meanwhile, Kaiser's max peak will be ranked number 2, similar to Chris Prince, who is beneath Noah, where both share similarities of being previous weak-minded people and improving, but that's a theory for another day. Kaiser just got humbled twice in a row now, towards the end of the Manshangi match as Isugi surpassed his vision and just got outscored by him in the Ubers game. This is not going to Kaiser's plan, and we see his infuriation as the NEL progresses, as Isugi consistently exceeds his expectations. But will Isugi beat him for a 3rd time now is the question. We know other characters like Bara and Nico who declare they won't lose still proceed to get outplayed by Isugi and constantly defeated, and so Kaiser could be like one of them and just consistently get beaten by Isugi. Kaiser also is fairly predictable in his formula. He's consistently tried using his Metavision X Predator X Kaiser shot to score, and I think it's making him easier to read as the game goes on. With the singular formula, the peak goal will be the one from his Ubers game. That goal was insane, and it will be difficult for Kaiser to exceed it in the PXG game, which is why he needs to develop a new weapon to surpass and crush Isugi. Well, we know Kaiser has thought of something to defeat him, and we will see it in the PXG game. Isugi stated he wanted to beat both Rin and Kaiser right here and now, so coming into the U20 World Cup, Isugi can be seen as the best striker. So in my mind, Kaiser can only score a maximum of 1 goal. He will either score one of the first 2 goals with his new weapon, or he won't score at all. If he does score 1 in Isugi 2, then he can surpass Rin and tie with Kaiser coming to the U20 World Cup and remain as equals. But if I'm predicting Kunigami scores 1, Isugi 2 and Kaiser 1, then that doesn't work out since there's only 3 goals. But I'm going to say it, I don't think Kaiser will score this match, and I truly believe he becomes the Naked Emperor. He will lose his team to Isugi, his title as best striker, his only teammate Ness, etc. He'll have nothing after this match, even with his newly developed weapon. And so I think there are 4 different ways this match will go down, and all 4 I'm expecting Shido and Rin to score for PXG. But as for Bayern Munich, I expect these probabilities, with the highest being the one where Kaiser does not score. In general, I believe Shido scores the first super goal from Charles' assist according to Luki's advice. Then Rin will score the second super goal for PXG from once again Charles' assist, where he goes in his destroyer ego, mimicking Isugi's weapon aka his direct shot, and scoring a curved direct shot signifying he devoured and beats Isugi at that moment. I believe that it will be PXG scoring the first 2 goals, then Bayern Munich the next 3, due to it being a unique order, although it could just be a repeated order. The 4th option is the Blue Lockers option, where I'm guessing that Kunigami scores with Hiyori's assist, then Yukimiya with Kiyora's or vice versa, and the final goal going to Isugi through Ness's assist as he betrays Kaiser. This is the most unlikely to happen as Isugi may struggle to surpass Rin's salary, and it means Kaiser doesn't score. The only way this happens is if the author wants the final goal stakes between Izuki and Kaiser, as both try to claim the final goal, but overall I think it's very unlikely to happen. The next option is one that I think a lot of people anticipate, and that is with Kunigami, Izuki and Kaiser all scoring. If you remember earlier, we have seen that Kunigami hasn't scored the first goal, Izuki the second, and Kaiser the third, and if they want a unique order then it's definitely possible and could play out in rivalry pairs. Such that we have Shido and Kunigami score, preceding Rin and Izuki, and finally with Kaiser scoring the game-winning goal through Ness, who just had his backstory. I think this is one of the most anticipated orders who scores, but there's a reason I don't think it will happen, and that's simply because Izuki's hunger and ambition is to be rank 1 and surpass Rin. Both Rin and Kaiser can destroy Izuki like they wanted and get a momentary victory, but for Izuki, who mind you is the protagonist and the one to lead Japan's victory in the U20 World Cup, the best way to exceed Rin and satisfy his hunger is by scoring 2 goals. Heck, we see Izuki directly stating that if he gets 2 goals and beats PXG, he can exceed Rin's ranking, and to me that indicates that Izuki must score twice to fulfill his hunger and originality, and get that rank 1 spot. And so the two that have the highest chance to score for me personally is that Izuki scores twice, and either Kunigami or Kaiser scores the remaining goal for Bastard. The major thing I also want to point out is that the first goal from Bastard will dictate this game's flow and which option will happen, as the first goal will likely be either Kaiser or Kunigami. If it is Kaiser 1 and Izuki 2, that is the same people from last game who scored, and they won't repeat the order of Izuki then Kaiser then Izuki, winning like the Ubers game. The only way this can work is if Kaiser scores the first goal for a third time, as Izuki scoring the first 2 goals leaves Kaiser to the last, which wouldn't work as that means Kaiser lost halfway through the match. In either this scenario or the next, we could have Hiyori assist Kaiser or Kunigami, like how he said multiple times he will pass to whichever striker is best, like Sai. If Kaiser does score, then that means Kunigami the hero would have to throw away his ego and assist Izuki like Ego asked, perhaps even letting Izuki be the primary striker alongside Kaiser. Izuki and Kaiser tying goals means they'll compete for the final goal, which will be in the hands of Ness and his awakening, where I believe the final goal will be like the first selection, with Kaiser being more open, but Ness trusts Izuki's magic and assists him, showing he is similar to Charles, as he can support both carries. Now Kunigami scoring instead of Kaiser is what I personally believe is more likely. Assuming this is the order, then the match would be about halfway done, and is the right time to bring up the wildcard again before Kunigami scores. The main focus is Rin and Kaiser, and so resolving Kunigami's past at this point means they can focus on the actual main plot for the second half of the match. Bastard Munich being down 0-2 could mean that Kunigami can be the hero for Bastard Munich, as he brings hope in a dire situation, and this hope he brings will be reminiscent to the moment of the first selection, where he scores the first goal for Team Z. Maybe it's because I like old Kunigami a lot, but he has come back for 100 chapters now and needs the current goal more than Kaiser. Plus, as a striker, the best way you can beat someone is to score, and as we know, his originality is hinted to beat the villain Shido. Kunigami scoring also allows for Kiora to get involved and potentially assist, which wouldn't be possible if Kaiser scores, and if the author intends for him to make the final roster, then assist is the minimum. Otherwise, I'm not sure what else he could do in the actual match to warrant his hype. But the issue with Kunigami scoring instead of Kaiser is the fact Kaiser said he had a new way to destroy Izuki, which means he has a new weapon which would be obsolete if he doesn't score. Now the main reason I believe Kaiser won't score is for Izuki to surpass both Rin and Kaiser coming into the World Cup. Ever since the beginning of the NEL, Izuki said he will take everything away from him, leading him to become the Naked King. We will get to see his jealousy demon firsthand and his fall from grace. And with no goals in the final game, no teammates as they all get subbed off, and Ness assisting Izuki, plus having more goals overall, he will truly be the Naked King with nothing left. And effectively, Izuki successfully destroyed Kaiser's life and team, like he said at the beginning of the arc. Kaiser's downfall has been hinted for a while now, similar to Ryo and Naki. With Kaiser's glass ego and an emphasis in despair in the previous match, Kaiser needs to lose to get a reality check and to improve in the future. We've seen him state he likes crushing weaker people and old pros, and we see Chris also acknowledge he only targets weaklings. Kaiser needs to lose again for him to reevaluate his mindset, or else he will never have the capabilities to accomplish his dream in winning the World Cup. Getting humbled by Isuki, who has an improving mindset and willing to tackle hard challenges, is a reason why he is rising rapidly in skill, while also the fact he allows those around him to improve too. Meanwhile, Kaiser's teammates stagnate in skill and progressively are getting subbed off. He is a thorn that is hurting his own team. Kaiser fans will be upset if he doesn't score again, especially as he is a top U20 striker, but he needs this loss now if he ever wants to improve in the long run. So how I think it will go, it will start off with Shido's super goal with Charles, and in about 6 or 8 chapters Rin goes to destroyer mode and scores a direct curved shot going around Isuki and scoring from Charles' assist again. I believe when they are down 0-2 the Master Strikers sub in, where Loki subs in for PXG with Noah and Ikaguri subbing in for Mensa and Birkenstock, and they successfully stall for 3 minutes. Hiyori will pass to the most optimal striker, which will happen to be Kunigami, as we see him develop his hero ego again, as he brings hope to the team, and then we can see Shido and Kunigami actually interact again. The next goal will be Isuki, which I'm confident he will score the second goal for Barca Munich, potentially in chapter 274, where the assist is from Kiora, mainly because there's the Twitter post saying how Kiora will help Isuki. The match is 2-2 and the ball comes down to Ness with Kaiser in an open space that could win and score to not lose against Isuki. But instead, Ness awakens and actually assists Isuki. And with his second goal, Isuki beats both Rin and Kaiser, and this arc concludes with Isuki taking the rank 1 spot. Kaiser will develop and we will see a rematch in the actual World Cup, where we will see Germany vs Japan play, but for now I'm guessing Isuki surpasses Rin and Kaiser. With that being said, let me know who you think scores, and as always, Buddha be praised, have a good day and take care.